Hello and welcome back. Thanks for joining. My name is Berit and today I want to talk about The Three-Body Problem by Cixin Liu or Liu Cixin. I'm not sure how to pronounce his name. Anyway, this is a Chinese science fiction novel that I have recently read. I just finished it 3 days ago and today I want to share some thoughts and feelings that I have about this book. In this novel we have 2 or 3 storylines. In the beginning we meet a woman named Ye Wenjie, and she is a physicist who witnesses how her father, who is also a physicist, is beaten to death during the Cultural Revolution in China. She goes on to work with people who chop down trees, lumberjacks, where she meets a reporter who is against the destruction of the environment, and she helps him copy a letter that he wants to write to some officials, which leads to her being accused of having written the letter herself, and then she loses her status, kind of. So she has the 2 options to either go to jail or to join a research program, a secret military research program, at a place called the Red Coast Base. In a second storyline, which takes place about 40 years later, we meet Wang Miao, who is a nano researcher, and he is asked by the military to infiltrate an organization of scientists called Frontiers of Science. And this organization apparently has something to do with the fact that a lot of physicists or a lot of researchers have committed suicide lately, which is what the military wants to investigate, and they want someone to infiltrate the organization to help them get information about them. After Wang Miao says yes to this, something strange happens to him. He sees a kind of a countdown in his vision, like in front of his eyes, and for example on photos that he takes, and he cannot really explain to himself what that is. So he contacts a former colleague of his who also introduced him to the Frontiers of Science organization, and she tells him to visit a website where Wang Miao starts to play a video game called Three-Body. He enters this game, which is about a civilization living on a planet which is impacted by the movement of the 3 suns that surround the planet. And the thing is that the movement of the 3 suns is very chaotic and not really calculable. So sometimes they have like a stable period, and then they have like chaotic periods where the suns or one of the suns can get very, very big, or other times where they become very small, so that heat and cold often destroy these civilizations, which then have to evolve anew. And the initial goal of the game is to calculate the movement of the sun so that the people of the civilization on the planet, so that they have some security of when they have a stable era or when they have a chaotic era. So that's kind of what the basic plot of the book is, without giving away too much. It might seem like the storylines are not really connected to each other, at least that was my feeling when I read it, especially the storyline of Ye Wenjie and Wang Miao, but they are tied together eventually. But I will talk about how they are tied together a bit later in a spoiler section for this video. So there is a lot of great stuff in this book. I absolutely enjoyed reading it. First of all, the language is beautiful. I guess a big kudos to the translator, Cixin Liu. It is written beautifully. There are great metaphors in it, and the language is really immersive for the most part, apart from where they discuss a lot of physics, and then I kind of don't get what they talk about, basically, because I don't know anything about physics. The novel also has an underlying environmental theme, which I found very interesting. They reference Rachel Carson's book Silent Spring in the beginning from 1962, which is one of the founding texts for the environmental movement which was established in the USA during the 1960s. And I thought that this was a very interesting way to kind of connect China and the USA in this book, with the Cultural Revolution on the one side and then the environmental movement on the other side. And also I really liked that the environmental topic was referenced again and again throughout the book. So environmental themes kind of appeared here and there, and they were kind of important to the story actually, which I hadn't expected, so I was positively surprised by that. The physics stuff in the book was also very cool, although I gotta say I felt very stupid sometimes while reading the book, especially in the middle part, because I have no idea about physics. It was not exactly my favorite subject in school, to say it that way. But it also made me kind of want to find out more about what they were talking about when I didn't understand something. Like, for example, the thing with the three-body problem is a physics problem from mechanics, classical mechanics, and I kind of wanted to know what this problem is about to understand the episodes of the video game a bit better, and that was kind of interesting. I didn't really understand everything, of course, but it made me want to find out more about that. So that, I think that's a plus. At the end, the physics stuff does get a bit unrealistic, but I didn't mind it because, again, I'm not exactly a physicist. And on the other hand, I also just thought it was the beauty of crazy science fiction. The storylines were brought together very well at the end, I think. And I found especially the last third, more or less, very exciting and thrilling to read. I have to say, I went into the novel knowing very little about it. There is something in the plot that I have read in reviews of the book, which I didn't know about when I first read it. So maybe it's less thrilling to read the last third if you know the thing that I didn't know in the beginning. This doesn't make sense if you don't know the book, but if you know the book, maybe you know what I mean, and I will come to that in a minute when I talk about spoilers. The one thing that I really didn't like about this book was the role that it gave to women. I will talk more about it in a minute, but I want to say that if you are going to read it, which I would generally absolutely recommend because it's great science fiction, but be aware that this book really doesn't like women, and I kind of ask myself what the author's deal with women is, because wow, he doesn't leave one good thing about women in this book, I feel. So that was kind of like a bummer reading. I mean, it doesn't openly talk badly about women. It's more like the roles that women have in this book, which are very few. They are also not very positive. So that was kind of like, it could have been a little less mean towards women, I think. This is the one big minus that I would give this book. If you care for spoilers, if you haven't read the book and you consider reading it, I would advise you to now turn off this video, because I will now also talk about spoilers. So if you care about that, thanks for watching, and maybe hopefully I could give you some information about the book, about the plot, and about my general thoughts on it. As I said, I would highly recommend reading it for anybody who wants to read good science fiction, but be aware of misogyny, I guess. So now we are in the spoiler section, and I'm not 100% sure where to start. First of all, the Trisolarians are brutal and crazy, and I didn't know that this book contained something about extraterrestrial beings when I read it. So I was pretty blown away by the alien stuff, but that also kind of helped me to understand the game better in retrospect, because when I first read it, the game episodes really confused me, and I didn't quite know what to think of them. I didn't understand what was happening, and I didn't quite know how to imagine this world that Wang Miao enters when he enters the game. So that was kind of like a constant point of confusion for me, and I'm not sure whether I enjoyed the game parts as much because I found them very confusing. I did, as I said, absolutely love how the storylines came together towards the end, because it also helped me make sense of a lot of the stuff in the beginning. And I also loved how some of the technical or science stuff from the beginning is taken up again at the end. I thought the whole operation of retrieving the data from the ship with the very, very subtle name Judgment Day, how they retrieved the data using these nano blades and stuff, that was really cool. I absolutely loved it, and I thought that passage was very thrilling to read. It was kind of like different from the rest of the book. But, and this also kind of concerns how the stories come together towards the end. I mean, the role that this book gives to women. Ever heard of the original sin? Does it ring a bell? I mean, first of all, we have like 2 women that are not dead and that have names and appeared like maybe more than once. And both of them don't exactly come across as very nice people. And especially Ye Wenjie, I mean, she pretty much single-handedly fucks humanity in the ass by setting hostile aliens loose on them. I mean, it is because she has lost all faith in humanity, and she has deep-rooted issues with humans, which I can kind of understand because she saw how teenagers beat her father to death. But I mean, even when I understand the grudge that she has against humans, I get that. I get that she hates people, but how about some anger management for her, and maybe some misogyny management for the author or the narrative? I mean, excuse my language, but that was just a bit much. Having the one woman who appears more than like twice and who has kind of like an important role in the book, being the one sole culprit for the whole situation that humanity will be fucked in 450 years, that was kind of like, there was no balance in that, because men tried to save the day while one woman kind of destroyed humanity's fate because she has issues. That was kind of like, I don't know, a bit much for one woman, especially when she's like almost the only woman in the story. And again, the book doesn't explicitly like talk badly about women. It's just that their roles are kind of like, they are either dead or they are a wife who appears once and apart from that kind of exists in the background, or they are the ice-cold researcher woman who marries a man purely out of research reasons and doesn't seem to have emotions, or they are the one person who single-handedly kind of destroys the fate of humanity. Like, those are the roles that women have in this novel. I'm not sure what I think about the picture that this paints, but also I gotta be honest, this was still a great book to read. I enjoyed it very much. And I'm very much looking forward to the second volume because I really want to know how the story continues. I just think that the novel should get its act together when it comes to women, but I also have zero hope of that happening in part 2. But the conceptual side of it, the kind of science fiction side of it, that was just phenomenal. And I cannot wait to read the second part because I really want to know more about the evil Trisolarians who will fuck humanity. I'm waiting for the second book to arrive, and yeah, then we'll see what Trisolarians will do on their way to Earth, I guess. If you've read The Three-Body Problem, please let me know what you think about it. I would be very interested in hearing other opinions about it. And yeah, I hope that you enjoyed me sharing my thoughts on this book, and maybe I'll see you in the next one. Bye!